So this is a playthrough of the breakthrough scenario Operation Berlin solo scenario from GMT Games' Atlantic Chase. In this I'm going to be playing as the Germans. It's March 1941. The Gross Admiral Erich Raeder, who is represented in the game here, the Germans, has a capability which we'll probably see used later on, has finally ordered the Kriegsmarines 2 modern battle cruisers, the Gneisenau and the Scharnhorst, which are off on to the side on the task force display, to perform a forceful sortie into the North Atlantic. This is Germany's first chance to cripple Great Britain. My objective as the Germans is to strike British convoys hard, but not to lose one of those 2 battle cruisers in battle, and they begin in this task force here up in Kiel, to return them by the end of the game to one of the French ports, Bordeaux, Saint-Nazaire or Brest. So targeting the convoys, which you can see the British convoys running, one from Halifax, the other up from Gibraltar into Clyde, Liverpool, up here in the northwest of England or south of Scotland. Make their way, obviously cause as much havoc as they can to those convoys, and then in due course make their way to one of these French ports. They have some support from the pocket battleship the Scheer, which I have discretion where that sets up. It needs to set up adjacent to one of these rendezvous points that you can see on the map. I've elected to put it up here in the North Atlantic Ocean. We have a series of British task forces as you can see just off the north of Scotland. The British have the Edinburgh and the Trinidad heavy cruisers, and in due course some reinforcements, and we'll see what other British ships emerge, but that is the situation for now. We start off with good weather. Germans have the initiative. The scenario ends when 2 or fewer rendezvous markers remain, and the Germans have no task forces in play, or also as the result of the British action table. In terms of reinforcements, I've got a reinforcement in Brest, the Hipper, but if I bring the Hipper into play I will lose victory points. So the Hipper heavy cruiser sitting in Brest, it's just off the map in the off map box. I'm going to do my best not to bring that into play. Whether I need to, I suppose, would depend on how the scenario proceeds. Other things to notice are that Norway is under German control, so Trondheim is a German airbase, so air support will be able to emerge from Norway if needed. I carry out fueling checks if I end with a task force, or if I have an initiative and one of my task forces is in the rendezvous box, then we will see what emerges from that. I don't tend to, when I play these, look at the victory point scenario outcomes. All I know, my orders are: strike the convoys hard, do not lose a battle cruiser in battle, and get those battle cruisers back to a French port. To a certain extent, that's those are my orders, and I like to play these games, these solo games, without having kind of breakdown of objectives. I don't know why that is. I don't know why I play it that way. It's how I like to do it. I could, of course, inspect the victory point schedule, as it were, but I'm going to choose not to. So, let's see how this goes. My turn first, and we'll see what havoc I can cause to British shipping. Right then, let's take my first move. Now, in due course, obviously, I'm going to want to get the Gneisenau and the Scharnhorst out of Kiel, and I think to avoid the British air bases in the Channel, airfields in the Channel, which will obviously automatically create a contact, I'm going to head out, probably out through the Denmark Strait. But even at this point, this will bring me within range of Scapa Flow if I were to head out now, and susceptible to an airstrike. I think a sensible thing for the time being would be to hold off until the weather is bad and then get out once the weather is bad and airstrikes are taken out of the equation. So I'm going to begin, I think, with the shear. Now, I'm always intrigued by the rendezvous options. I don't know whether they bring good or bad outcomes for me, but I'm going to start with a trajectory action for the shear. I'm going to send it both north and south, just to keep my options open, and I'm going to extend to begin with, just to get this trajectory up and running. I'm going to send it through up to the Arctic line here, so that brings me potentially into contact with the rendezvous, and then I'm just also going to come potentially into a position where I can search for the convoy there. So, a trajectory action. Decision now, what to do? Well, I retain the initiative. Hasn't taken me through anything where there is contact. Actually, it does bring me within just outside range of an airstrike there, so I'm just going to redraw that line just to avoid any sorties, air sorties from Canada, and we'll bring it this way. Now, a naval search, I suppose, is going to have a fairly low chance of success, but we could certainly do a naval search on the convoy just to begin to narrow things down. But the trajectory total is going to be high, but I don't think we've necessarily got anything to lose on that one. So I think my next action is going to be a naval search by the shear against that convoy. So obviously the active task force is this one. The search is going to be against the British convoy here. That is the target. Sorry, just in this hex, the same hex. The active task force doesn't have Intel attached, so there is no chance for interrupting. At the end of this we're going to time-lapse, except for the target task force, which can attempt to seize initiative. So the search, the trajectory length I'm sure is going to be longer than 16 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yep, so we're going to be searching in the 16 plus naval search box. There is no weather modifier, no contact marker modifier, no evasive maneuvers, no coordinating task forces, so it's going to be a straight up roll. 2 dice. Let's just grab my dice tower, find a space to that you can see the roll. So we're rolling in the naval search 16 plus column 7, which gives us a early or late result, so that could be worse. Early or late, we remove the target's trajectory segment from the space, and if this creates a hole, then we select the line of segments to one side or the other of that hole and remove those segments. The active player, that's me, makes the selection. Just worth noting that if the target task force has an evasive maneuvers marker, then they can discard that marker and make the selection themselves, but obviously I'm going to remove that, and I am going to remove these trajectory markers. We got there a little bit early, but we have obviously narrowed down the convoy's position, still some way short of its destination, so that was far from a wasted action. We have now a seize initiative for the British. They're going to roll a dice. They need a 9 plus for success. Now, when it comes to the decision around seizing initiative, and the decision whether to go for an evasive maneuver marker instead, the rules state that when the imaginary opponent has the choice between attempting to seize initiative or take an evasive maneuvers marker, make the decision by rolling a die. If 1 to 4, it attempts to seize initiative. So let's do that first of all. 5 to 6, it takes the evasive maneuvers marker. So I'm going to attach that evasive maneuvers marker and attach it to the convoy for use at a later stage. And the guidance again is that a convoy will seek, or a the bot, as it were, will attempt to use an evasive marker as soon as possible. If the imaginary player has the option to use an evasive marker, it does so. So initiative remains with me, but of course I had to time lapse. The speed of the shear is medium, so my time lapse is in good weather 3 segments. I think I will take from we will take from up here, and that is the end of that action. The initiative remains with me. There was no initiative roll, so the initiative tally doesn't change and it's my choice what to do next. The British retain initiative. Sorry, I beg your pardon. The Germans retain initiative. That's us, me, and I don't think I'm going to head in this direction to continue the search on this part of the convoy. I think I've narrowed that down enough, and I don't want to come within range of the airfield up here. So instead I'm going to track down in this direction to see whether we can narrow the position of the convoy moving up from Gibraltar. It's going to be another naval search. There are going to be no modifiers, no coordinating forces, no impact from airfields. Again, it's going to be in the 16 plus column for the length of trajectory. So straight roll of 2 dice, and it's a 7. So a naval search 7 is early or late. So we remove this segment, and I'm going to remove that part of the trajectory, so we know that the convoy has not travelled a huge distance up from the bottom of Spain. We roll now to see whether the British will try to seize initiative or whether they're going to take an evasive manoeuvres marker again. 1 to 4 they'll seize initiative. No, but once more they choose to take an evasive marker. So that attaches to that convoy. I am going to have to time lapse. Again, that requires me to remove 3. I'm going to remove, and for the time being, abandon the... Actually, I'm going to do that, leave myself the option of reducing myself down to a station and rendezvousing there, and I continue to keep the initiative. So the decision now for the Germans is whether I've shortened those convoy lines enough. I don't want to get close to the air bases, so I think what I'm going to do is just extend the trajectory into the centre of the board, shorten with a time lapse, and I've now kind of covered that area but kept myself away from air bases, and I think at that point passing, so we flip over to the British. I think I want to see what they're going to do, see if we can draw them out and give us a better sense about what their plans are going to be. So first of all we're going to roll for weather. 4, that stays good, the weather. Now the British action is going to be determined by a dice roll against the British action table. We're going to use the top row because no convoys are yet made home. That 1 is an airstrike, we can't do that, so we have to roll again to determine which of our task forces is going to act. It's going to be the nearest to a German trajectory with the requirement to bring it to battle. So the Edinburgh task force, we can form a trajectory for that to make its way down towards the Sheer. It's arrived there, and now as we need to bring it to battle, we're going to do a naval search to try and bring it down as soon as we can to a station which will allow us to engage. That's going to be on the 10 column because that's a 10 trajectory long. A 9, which gives us a shadow result. So the British are going to reduce our trajectory down to 3 and then time lapse themselves 4. that's where we end up. It's my chance now to try and seize the initiative. Need a 9. Yep, get a 10, so that's a good result. I seize the initiative. Okay, so the weather does not change. I'd need a 6 for it to change. So I've already seen that airstrikes are an option for the British. I don't want to be engaged really with the heavy cruiser, so I'm going to kind of plot a course away a little bit from the Edinburgh, keep my trajectory long so that any search against me comes at a sort of disadvantage for the British. Don't know if that's far enough. No, let's just go extend it a little bit further because I'm going to time lapse as well, which I'm medium speed is going to reduce the trajectory length by 3. And I think that's it for me for this turn. Not a great deal done. Again, we check for weather, stays good. So now the British roll for their action. 1, again that would be an airstrike, so we're going to have to roll to see which of the task force is going to act. Is going to be the one again nearest. So the Edinburgh once again is going to extend its trajectory. It's going to make sure it doesn't join at the very end of the tail, but midway through. So now a search. 5 on the 10 column gives an early or late. Okay, so that segment is going to be removed, and at this moment I am going to intervene here, and I'm going to play my evasive mark so I can choose which side of the gap is removed. I'm going to remove that one, of course, otherwise I'd have been rather easily identified. The British time lapse. The Edinburgh is now converted from a trajectory to a station. I know where it is. Right, let's see if I can regain the initiative. Need a 9. Nope, failed to do so. So the British roll again against the action table. 2, that's another airstrike, but again no valid target for an airstrike, so I'm going to roll again to see which of the task forces will act. It's again going to be the one nearest to my trajectory, so again the Edinburgh extends its trajectory to try and intercept me. I think, yeah, it was going to go just far enough to go beyond the tail. Now we'll again conduct a naval search, but of course the total trajectory length is much shorter, an 8. So that's a contact. So the first contact and also shadow, so I'm going to reduce the length of my trajectory to 3. The British are now going to time lapse, so they have a station now in the hex where they have contact with me. That's going to make things perilous for me. So let's see whether I can grab back the initiative. I should have +1 from the previous attempt that failed. That doesn't work, and I'm in trouble.